Next up is our AFC North preview and predictions as to what we expect forecasting the 2022 season. And if you don't know anything about me, I am a big-time Pittsburgh Steelers fan. You see the Big Ben jersey in the background. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, this is not homerism. You may think it is, but I think people are sleeping on the Steelers. They have now built the most expensive defense in the NFL. And when you look at their roster, to me, it has massively improved from last season, as has the rest of the AFC. The AFC, excuse me. But there's one big thing with this team. Two, actually. Because the second is pretty notable that everyone seems to forget, and I don't know how. That show me this is easily a playoff team next year. They may not win 12 games, and the quarterback position may be a concern or a question to some people because it's an unknown. But when you look at Mike Tomlin-led teams, everyone always counts them out. Always. Few expected the Steelers to make the postseason last year, and even in 2020 when they got off to a hot 11-0 start, many people didn't have them making the playoffs that year. And even still, they're one of the top seeds in the AFC. And it was because of many injuries and a lack of a running game that their team fell apart at the end of the year. But now we have a running game. We have Najee Harris, who, if you look at reports, he is as built as a lion. And now we're building an offensive line to supplement his ability as a runner. We bring in James Daniels. We sign Mason Cole. We add depth. All of those young starters that last year were coming in for the first time have a year of experience and cohesion playing together. Like at Chuks Okorafor, here's the best offensive lineman. He is just 25 years old, even though he started for 4 years. So you can say he's still got more left in the tank to improve. He just switched from left to right tackle. You look at all the development on the offensive line. James Daniels is a quality young guard. There's going to be competition on the offensive line. Last year, we were starting Kendrick Green, a third-round pick, who basically had the job handed to him, and it was one of the worst performances I've ever seen from a rookie offensive lineman. Just was not ready to go out there. In week one, we can see that all the way to the last week he started. But now at the Steelers' offense, they have built a capable offensive line with a mobile quarterback, whether it be Mitch Trubisky or Kenny Pickett, to accentuate the skills of all the talent in their offense. Najee Harris, Pat Freiermuth in his second season, Diontae Johnson, Chase Claypool. And I haven't even mentioned the rookie receivers we added. To me, their offense is going to be one of the more dynamic with the speed and elusiveness of Diontae Johnson, Calvin Austin. You know like that?
John. I'm sorry, John.
Right. Somebody, hold on.
I just can't ever say that a team is a shoo-in for playoff contention when we don't even know who's going to be their quarterback. But if Mitchell Trubisky is going to be your starting quarterback, and this, it's not a shot at him, because I think he's had some bright spots in Chicago and some very, very low ones. But I can't say right now, looking at the Pittsburgh Steelers, oh, this team is going to the playoffs when I don't know who's under center.
But that's the very thing. In 2018, Matt Nagy won Coach of the Year, winning 12 games with Mitch Trubisky. We have Mike Tomlin. The difference is, in 2019, Matt Nagy tried to have Mitch do more. He tried to have him kind of play out of his box, in a way. The Steelers are not going to ask him to make all kinds of throws. He's a proper scheme fit with their offensive coordinator, Matt Canada. That's why Matt, creatively, right as free agency began, he was immediately in Pittsburgh. They were eyeing him up because he was the right scheme fit. Last year, we had the worst offense in the NFL to start games, and we're always playing from behind. And Ben Roethlisberger was capable to keep us in games in the fourth quarter. But now we can get up ahead. All of a sudden, we're able to run the ball a little bit more effectively with Najee Harris. And you know the Steelers, they can draft wide receivers as well as any team. The only one that's even in that class is Minnesota, and to me, there's no other team that can stack up with them. That is how effectively they have utilized their draft capital on that position. You add in 2 rookie receivers. One is a speedster, but to me, he's closer to a Tyreek Hill than he is a Adree Archer and Calvin Austin III out of Memphis. He's 5'7", 5'8", but he's got burners. And Matt Canada is going to utilize him as a threat with his speed.
John, after this whole soliloquy you went through, so you're saying the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to win the division?
Not
Is that
yet.
what you're saying? Okay. Because you're going into this whole soliloquy where you're talking about all the positives. You're putting the sugar, the sugar candy. You're living in Candyland right now.
Can I finish?
Let's be honest, though. Talk about the quarterbacks honestly.
I'm going to get to that in a moment. If the Steelers can run the ball effectively, which they have not been able to do in years since Le'Veon left, and their defense, which is the most expensive in the NFL, is healthy. TJ Watt was Defensive Player of the Year, and he missed basically 6 games playing through injuries, all kinds, and he had a historic season still. We just extend Minkah Fitzpatrick to a record-breaking safety deal. We're bringing back the same starters, and we're adding depth. Injuries have plagued the Steelers through the years, the last 2 or 3. Now we're adding a little bit of versatility. We're getting a little youth in there. We just signed from Cincinnati one of the best defensive linemen in the NFL, Larry Ogunjobi. He was averaging, or he's constantly getting pressure last year, helping Trey Hendrickson and the Bengals. They add him in. They added Myles Jack, Levi Wallace from Buffalo. These are all starting caliber young players. And there's a youth movement going on in Pittsburgh where there's no hole on the team except for one question, and that is the quarterback position.
That's the biggest question mark.
Thank you.
But can you win without a quarterback? The Steelers almost won 10 games. If it weren't for Duck Hodges and Mason Rudolph in 2019, choking the year away, losing the last 3 games. We're 8-5 with those guys. Why? Because we had an opportunistic defense. They're able to get the lead.
John, but all right, yes, you can win without a good quarterback. Yes, okay. But the real question is, we're not playing just to win games. We're playing to every team's aspirations before the seasons, no matter if they're bad or the favorites. They want to win a championship that year. That's the end goal. Can you win a Super Bowl without a good quarterback? The answer in today's NFL is no.
But how often do we see a team miss the playoffs with one of the 5 to 7 or 10 best coaches and one of the best defenses, with a good amount of talent to supplement those quarterbacks? You look at Mitch Trubisky, let's say he's the starter week 1 in Chicago, his best weapons were Tariq Cohen. Now he's got Nagy. Pat Fryermuth's going to have a big-time year in year 2. He had Ben Roethlisberger throwing in the ball. Ben was not able to throw to the middle of the field last season. Not only that, Pat had 2 concussions as a rookie, and to start the season, he was coming off the bench for Eric Ebron. These young guys in Pittsburgh are fueling this retool because we don't rebuild. The Steelers consistently find talent through the draft. And the unique thing is the youth movement in the wide receiver room, the growth and development of their offensive line, and most importantly, the tutelage and the way Mike Tomlin can develop and get the most out of his talents. Mike Tomlin is an elite head coach, and never, ever, in the last, 5-7 years, has he disappointed in the regular season. Through all kinds of injuries, he's found ways to never have a losing season once. In 2019...
See, I believe there's no disputing how great of a coach Mike Tomlin is. Any coach, any team would take him any day. But like I said, I think the big question mark is going to stay on the quarterback position because as high expectations that you're putting on your own team, there's only so far that this rookie QB, Kenny Pickett, can take these guys. Or Mitchell Trubisky, who, one, doesn't have the IQ that Ben Roethlisberger had. This guy might be throwing the ball into trouble every game. It's not – you guys play in a division where the Baltimore Ravens are going to bring a tough defense. That's nothing to sleep on. Cincinnati, they're going to bring tons of pressure. I don't know if guys like that. Mitchell Trubisky's young. He hasn't started a game since when? It's been a while.
Yeah. So Mitchell Trubisky I liken him to kind of a Mark Sanchez type, right? Except he's probably more athletic. Mark Sanchez got to, I believe it was back-to-back AFC championship games, but it wasn't because of Mark Sanchez. It was because of the running game with LaDainian Tomlinson and Sean Green, and that defense with Darrelle Revis, the second greatest cornerback of all time, not to mention Antonio Cromartie, Rex Ryan with a great defensive scheme. The reason they didn't get to the Super Bowl was what? Mark Sanchez. So you can't. I'm sorry, John. I understand you got the rose-colored glasses on, right? But it's just, yes, you can make the playoffs. and that's fine and dandy. If that's that wouldn't be a successful season for the Steelers if they made the playoffs. That's like, oh my God, wow, we made the playoffs, Jesus. But I mean, don't get your hopes up, okay? Just don't get your hopes up. Because I expect them to miss the playoffs.
With their versatility
So
on
do I.
offense.
Yeah.
Because I think we're sleeping on.
For me, that's fine. I'm not sleeping on the team around the quarterback. I understand. You guys got great linebackers. You've got a pretty damn good defensive backfield. You've got the receivers. You've got the running back. You've got a solid tight end who's grown up that you were right about, Pat Freiermuth, who I laughed at you for when we were doing our fantasy football draft. I laughed at you for drafting him, but you were right. He came on in the end. I admit it.
That was
for me, it's just you can't trust the quarterback, and that's my whole thing. And that goes back to our first topic that we were talking about. Quarterback is the most important position on the field. If he's not good and you don't trust him, then you're going nowhere. So for me, it goes Cincinnati, Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Cleveland. And Cleveland's got a big question mark because if Deshaun Watson plays, or if let's say he gets banned 8 games, 8-game suspension and comes back, they could make a run. But I'm not ready to get on that horse because it's too many question marks.
Could I?
The only thing that I would change is I actually have Baltimore number 1, Cincinnati number 2, Pittsburgh 3, Cleveland 4.
Wow.
Could I add one thing?
Mm-hmm.
Is the quarterback position really a concern or a question mark for the Steelers? Is it a concern?
Yes.
Because Mitchell Trubisky was a Pro Bowler in 2018 when he had the support around him. When
I believe
the
he was
offense,
a Pro Bowl alternate. I think he was a Pro Bowl alternate.
but he had a quality season in year 2 within the constructs of what the Bears were asking him to do. They weren't asking him to make throws down the field.
Sanchez style. And then where does that get you?
But that's the point. The Steelers can eat. Their team is better than that 2018 Bears team on paper, and they have a much better head coach in Mike Tomlin. And not only that, but this team is young. They're only going to get better on both ends with added depth. They have veterans who have been in the league for a long time, but many of these guys in the offense are all in their mid-20s. You look at the dynamicism of the Steelers' offense. Diontae Johnson's playing on a contract year. Chase Claypool, for the first time, could have a quarterback who can actually get out the pocket and when the play dies, can get him the football. Then you look at George Pickens, who would have been a first-round draft pick if he didn't tear his ACL, and he's had some crazy moments in college where people said this could be a top 15 pick if it weren't for that ACL injury. Beyond a burner. Najee Harris is a beast of a young running back. To me, you can already make a case he's top 10.
Yeah,
and you have the young tight ends. What is missing? The offensive line should be solid.
The quarterback.
But the quarterback
position on the field.
With less support, that quarterback made a Pro Bowl. And he was 3 years younger. That's reasonable.
Pro Bowl's blown up. Mac Jones made the Pro Bowl. He had no
That's
place
what I'm saying. The Pro Bowl doesn't mean as much as it did back then. It doesn't. Let's be honest.